Hello and welcome to Signals from the Hill. I'm Kat and I do marketing for Avery Hill Publishing. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to Karen Shangguan about her book Quiet Thoughts, which came out last autumn with Avery Hill Publishing. Quiet Thoughts is just one of several great books that Avery Hill published last year. Head over to averyhillpublishing.com for more information. Our books are available through all good book and comic shops, and digital editions can be found on our Gumroad shop. I'm here with Karen Shangguan, whose book Quiet Thoughts came out with Avery Hill in the autumn. So thank you for talking to me, Karen. How do you describe your book when people kind of ask you what it's about?
It's like, I guess, a collection of like poetic comics and drawings. It's kind of hard to describe because it's like so broad, but like someone wrote like a little description on the back of my book that really perfectly described it.
Okay. I think that might have been me.
Oh, really? That was so nice. Oh my God.
I remember there was a point where, we were trying to work out how to describe your work. And yeah, it is quite hard because it's really subtle and it's really poetic. But once you've kind of said poetic, you don't really know what else to say.
Yeah.
It's really, really beautiful, kind of soft, gentle work. Have you always worked in that sort of style?
Yeah, kind of. But then like along the way, I started doing like more bolder colors because I saw other people were doing that. And then I went back because I was like, you know what, I'll just do my own thing.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking about actually when I was looking at your book just this afternoon, because the way that your work is really poetic, that's something that I think is the opposite of sort of how my brain works and my own work. I feel like my brain is really kind of literal and really kind of like logical. And when I was doing freelance illustration, I used to get the feedback often that I should try and be more poetic. But I think there's only so much you can do outside of what sort of comes naturally to you. And I think you just have to be guided by what you're kind of into and what you're interested in.
Yeah.
So did you study illustration?
I did, yeah. At Emily Carr at an art school in Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah. I enjoyed it mostly, but like there was just still some things that like needed some more developing. Yeah.
And did you go into freelance illustrating when you finished? Is that something you still do?
Yeah, it was hard because there's not a lot of companies in Vancouver or Canada that like have like hire illustrators and they don't pay as much in the States and London, so it was pretty hard.
Yeah.
I did some design work after school as well.
Okay. What sort of design work?
Like layout design, ad design.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Did you do any comics as part of your studies, or was that something separate?
Not well, there was like comic clubs, but there wasn't comic specific courses. But a lot of my friends, I made a lot of friends in the comic club, and that kind of inspired me to explore in different mediums and narratives.
Because that's another thing I was going to ask, was how you got interested in comics. Did you read comics much when you were younger?
I read like manga and like Garfield and Snoopy. I never really thought I would go into comics, but when I went into art school, I realized how like experimental they can be. So I wanted to do more with it.
And I think on your website, you describe yourself as an author as well. So is storytelling something you've always been interested in as well as drawing?
Yeah. I always like wrote little narratives and stuff when I'm doing nothing, like on bus rides or like just sitting in coffee shops. I like to write. little
that's
stuff.
interesting.
Yeah.
Do you sort of doodle as well and sort of keep a sketchbook, or do you mostly find that you're okay? So you do writing,
yeah.
writing and drawing.
Yeah, it's a mess. Yeah.
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 And so how did Avery Hill find your work? Was it just through social media?
I think I went to LCAF.
Oh,
And
right.
I think maybe Ricky discovered me. I don't really remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so when he asked you if you had something you might want to do, did you have some of the work that's in this book kind of already made, or did you make it all sort of from scratch for the book?
I had the idea of it, and then I was kind of like beginning to work on it. And then at the same time, Ricky asked me if I had any projects I was working on. So I sent him like the themes and like the idea that I already wrote.
Mm.
So it was kind of serendipitous.
Oh, so it was good timing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how much did Ricky sort of go back and forth with you on what was going to be in the book, or was it not very much at all?
He was very like, he gave me a lot of space. Yeah, I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he always says he'll just do whatever the artist kind of wants.
Yeah.
I'm always a little bit needy and I kind of want him to tell me what to do. So he's had some kind of input on my work, but a lot of people kind of know what they want and they're quite happy to just kind of get on with it.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, he was really nice and professional about everything.
Oh, that's good. So, and you'd made some smaller zines before, is that right?
Yeah.
So this was the longest thing that you'd made?
Yeah.
And do you think you're going to do more of this sort of thing?
Probably. Yeah, because the smaller zines, like you can only like do so much and like portray so much.
Yeah.
I want to like do something bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you're working on for the future, or?
Yeah, I'm working on, I want to do like, there's a few ideas. I want to do like a graphic novel that's kind of like thriller and psychological, and then maybe like just a poetry book with drawings. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. So your artwork seems like there's a lot of sort of traditional media, pencils and things, but it seems like in places you use a bit of digital. Is that right?
Yeah.
So in this book, I think I spotted a few stories where there was a little bit of digital, or do you kind of use digital for all of it in sort of coloring and things?
Yeah, I used a pencil
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of it because like I just sometimes just can't focus when I'm on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I get to a point where like I just can't focus when I'm like doing pencil, so I just switch back to digital.
Okay.
But it's usually easier to like switch back to digital when all the drawings are done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you add some color and some texture maybe digitally?
Yeah.
And what program do you use?
I use Procreate, yeah.
Okay.
And Photoshop.
Yeah, I've got into Procreate over the last few years. I really love it.
Yeah, it's so easy.
It's just really easy to just pick up and use, and it's kind of it's not that far off just drawing in a sketchbook, really. It's kind of all there and it's easy.
Yeah, I gave my mom my old iPad and she's been drawing a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did she draw before, or was it just?
No, she just likes to try new things.
Oh.
She calls me every day to ask about the program.
So you're doing tech support.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you could collaborate with her on a project.
Maybe.
Or would that be a terrible another thing I was going to say about your artwork is that to me it looks really, really spontaneous. Like your drawing just looks like you've just kind of sat down and done it, and you've not kind of fussed around with it very much. I'm very much an artist that kind of takes ages and like goes over and over and over and redraws things. But then I know that that's not always, you know, looks can be deceiving. Would you say that you're quite a spontaneous drawer, or do you kind of tend to draw things and refine them?
I think it's kind of both, but yeah, I think more on the like fussy side actually.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I put a lot of effort into making my work not look fussy because I want it to look spontaneous. But yeah, you can never quite tell when you look at someone's art how they go about making it. Yeah, I love there's a particular page which is just lots of horses kind of rushing across the page.
Actually, yeah, that was actually kind of spontaneous.
Okay, it definitely had that feeling. Did you find that you sort of changed the wording a lot as you worked on your comics for this, or was it all kind of, you did change it?
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes they would not match the drawings, and then I would come up with better words that would go along with it. Yeah.
And so how do you go about, do you tend to start with the words or start with the images, or do they both happen at the same time?
Sometimes it's honestly hard to say. It just starts kind of, sometimes I have an idea and I write a lot, and then sometimes I have like an image and I like to just draw it a lot and like kind of refine the idea. Yeah, and then it just goes back and forth. And I do a lot of writing, then drawing, then writing, and then kind of like just mesh them together.
Yeah. I really like the way you sort of, you draw the human form, because your work is so kind of, it's so kind of warm. And I think you say in the description of your work that you're inspired by feelings and sensations, and it has this kind of human warmth to it. And I also love the way that you kind of distort the human figure in your drawings as well. It just creates a lovely kind of mood. How do you think you sort of came to your style, or is it just kind of what happens when you sit down to draw?
I think initially I wanted to learn more about anatomy and make it as accurate as possible, but then I realized I'm actually I just kind of gave up and like realized I'm just not that good for like life drawing, so I just kind of let myself play around with shapes and figures, and that's how it kind of formed.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think I'm like I was saying, like I'm really like logical brained, and I tend to draw things really realistically. So I'm always having to make the effort to go in a more interesting direction, because you know, up to a point, just drawing realistically is kind of a little bit boring. And I always want my work. Yeah, it can be fun, but you kind of want more to be happening, I guess, in the artwork as well. And so you said you went to LCAF. Have you exhibited at a lot of events like that?
Yeah, I've been to just mostly comics events in Vancouver, and then in 2019 I wanted to go to LCAF, and then in 2020 I wanted to go to TCAF and kind of expand, but then the pandemic hit. Yeah.
I saw that you did a poster at one point for VanCAF.
Yeah, that was the poster for 2020, but then
oh no. How has it affected you apart from events not happening?
I think sometimes like events kind of push me to do work because there's like deadlines and stuff. And now it's kind of just open space and I just kind of do whatever I want, and I kind of have a bad perception of time, so yeah.
Yeah, it can be really helpful to have deadlines. Yeah.
And just meeting other artists and other people is nice too.
Yeah, I always thought that LCAF was a really nice one.
Yeah, the building was so nice too.
Yeah. How does it compare to VanCaf?
Um, I really liked the building. The Van Cap is like basically just in like a school gym.
Okay.
Or not a school gym, but like just the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's yeah. And then there's a lot of bigger names at LCAP and
Mm-hmm.
a lot more events and like community.
Right.
There was like that socializing thing on the first night. That was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I did go to TCAF once,
Oh,
and the size of it was quite overwhelming.
yeah, it was like 5 floors.
Huge.
I think one level of fan cap is like just, I mean, one level of TCAF is just like the size of
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. It was really good, but it was, yeah,
Yeah.
it was impossible to kind of see everything. So do you think you'll start to get back into events as they start to happen again?
Probably, yeah.
Do you sell your work online as well?
Yeah, I'm selling on Etsy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to like find a different platform because they're like always increasing their fees.
Yeah, it's really tricky.
Yeah.
What with stuff happening with Kickstarter and Etsy and
Yeah,
Gumroad and all sorts of things.
yeah.
It's kind of tricky to know.
Yeah. I might just do my own website probably.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Can you do web design and stuff?
Not really like coding, but just like graphics.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like Squarespace is pretty easy to like. They have like templates and stuff.
Yeah. I feel like more and more people are going to probably try and do it by themselves going forward.
Yeah.
So there's one story in your book, the one about the tactility of sounds, that I found really interesting. Where did the idea of that come from?
So originally my idea was like perspectives from different angles and perspectives. And I was like, and like at the beginning of the book, you kind of can tell it's like from points of view of different objects and people. So I wanted to do a perspective on someone who is like impaired in vision and like kind of portray how that would feel to them. And like the text was actually text I jotted down while sitting in a coffee shop. Like it was actual real conversations.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Because what it made me think of was that there's that condition synesthesia where people kind of one sensory input can kind of transform into another one, like when they hear music they see colors and things. It made me think of that. I haven't experienced that for myself, but I've always thought it sounded really interesting.
And then at the end I just kind of came up with the title
Right.
to kind of wrap it up because I felt like nobody would really understand it without the words.
Right. Okay. And so how did you decide on the order of the book? Was it quite intuitive? You just kind of went with what you felt, or was it kind of really thought through as to what should come up after what?
For the most part, it was mostly from how I like the first like chronological order. Like the star was the first one, and then the last one was the black. But then I realized that as they progressed, they kind of got more like narrative and human, and I didn't really want to disrupt that flow, so I just kept it like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. They're all so different, and I love that the style varies so much, because you just feel like there's something completely new happening each time you kind of turn the page. It's a really interesting read. The other question I wanted to ask was whether you've sort of incorporated, whether you're quite kind of interested in print quality and print papers and things like that, because we used for your book a sort of textured paper for the cover. And I wondered if that's something that you'd done with your zines before.
Yeah, I really liked the cover, the texture. It was like watercolor. Yeah, and I really liked that. I actually print my zines from home on my own printer, so I like to play with papers as well. And yeah, one of the zines I have is actually very similar to this book. It's got like this watercolor textured paper as well. Yeah.
What kind of printer do you have?
I have an Epson P600. It's a fine art printer, so I can basically just print on whatever I want.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've got one behind me. It's a new one. I can't remember which one it is, but I've always had Epsons, and I really enjoy sort of printing. It can be quite stressful when it like sometimes doesn't work like it should.
A red dot is on your print and you have to redo it.
Yeah.
And then it's just like really slow because it's very like precise.
Yeah. Sometimes
job in itself.
Yeah. I like being able to have the control over it though. Anytime I send something off to be printed somewhere else, I freak out because I'm like, I'm used to doing this myself. I even used to, because I started printing my own stuff, I got into the habit when the first few little zines that I had printed by printing companies, I would actually like print a page myself and post it to them so that they could like see what I was expecting. They probably thought I was crazy.
No, that's actually a really good idea. I should do that.
Some printers are brilliant, and if they're used to sort of printing fine art stuff, they're used to, you know, the customer really wanting it to be right. So yeah, I always found people quite helpful. Yeah, that's something I always really liked, was sort of book objects and books that had really lovely paper. And because Quiet Thoughts kind of, you feel like you're holding like original drawings by you rather than like a commercially printed object. So I think that's really lovely.
Thank you. Yeah. So I want to see your book. I haven't found it in any stores.
Oh, okay. Oh, or maybe I'll run into you at an event at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go to TCAF again.
Yeah. It's such a cool city as well. There's so much to see there.
Oh, I mean LCAF, sorry.
Oh, LCAF. I'm less excited about London because I live here. But yeah, if you do, you'll have to let me know so that I can make sure to find you. So if people want to find your work online, where can they find you?
On my Instagram, Karen Shangguan, or KarenShangguan.com.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you very much for talking to me about your book.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks again to Karen for talking to me, and thank you for listening.